started.
So welcome everyone to the meeting of August 19th. We do have a quorum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the July meeting. I've forgotten the date of that meeting, because we should put that in the motion.
So moved.
Okay, you want me to find
this is
that?
Mike.
Have you got that handy?
Mike? Yeah, let me get it. And it's the one I sent out last week.
Right. While he's looking for it, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Okay.
Yep. So it was on July 15th.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 15th?
Motion to approve. This is Mike.
Yep. And second, fine, Karen. And unless there's an objection, the minutes are approved as distributed. Okay, so that's done. Now, the next order of business is to approve a new chair, to appoint and approve a new chair. Sarah Roy has agreed to be chair, as this was to be the last meeting for Keith Gallinelli, only he couldn't make it tonight. But he is definitely not going to make future meetings, so we need a chair. I'm vice chair, and I will continue as vice chair until I leave in a couple months. But for now, all we have to vote on is a new chair. So Sarah has agreed. So if I could have a motion to appoint Sarah Roy as the chair of our committee, or the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee.
I'll make the motion.
Motion to approve. Yep. Second it.
And
Who made
second,
that? Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Linda.
I did, Mike. Linda.
Linda. Okay. Okay.
Why don't we just show hands just to make sure everybody's counted? Yeah.
This is
And-
Mike. My hand is up.
Yeah, okay, so that's unanimous.
Great.
I'd say congratulations, Sarah, but she's not here.
She's not here.
I'll send her a quick text.
Idea.
She got voted in.
Miss a
Oh,
meeting.
Convicted
So
in
now-
absentia.
We go to the town event, to Bill Hurley's town update, and I have something for Bill. He may be planning on talking about it, but I think I'll bring it up. I wrote a note regarding the rescue plan funding and sidewalks, and one of my region representative town meeting persons for this part of town did some research, which wasn't obvious to me, that sidewalks are included under paving on page 17 of the plan. And she copied an excerpt regarding it. 3 million was put toward what was copied below. It says a townwide evaluation is already in progress by an outside consultant who will rate every road in town in order to develop a prioritization matrix with repair solutions and costs. The paving program will be developed from this engineering document. A sidewalk evaluation will be conducted in concert with the roadway review, and a matrix will be developed for that as well. So I thought, Bill, you probably know more about this than that. So I'll let you.
Yeah, we do have a consultant. They had started a kickoff meeting in July. I have not gotten any progress report or anything like that yet, but their goal was to complete their study or have it substantially complete in time for the budget season. We have a contract deadline of late November, early December on them. There's thresholds that they have to meet, but we're hoping that they have a good crux of it or a good portion of it completed by the end of October. So when we have to submit any budgets or anything like that, it will be in hand. And it's twofold. One is to meet the ARPA or American Rescue funding. Like Laura had said, they have earmarked 3 million. It has to go before all 3 boards. It may go up, it may go down. But that's, one of the aspects right now of it is right now, so far, we've had some preliminary meetings and that number seems to be fairly consistent. And so, but again, 3 million may help the town for 1 year, if you know what I mean.
I do.
This study is going to have probably at least a 5, if not a 10-year plan attached to it. And then we go by prioritization. And sometimes it might also be by neighborhood. You could have Road A, I'll just say North Street, way up in the north, all by itself. And if it's in bad shape, it might not make sense to send all the crews and everything up there. If there's 4 that are maybe slightly less condition, slightly worse condition. I'm sorry, back it up. Slightly better condition. But then there's 4 streets all close together in the same neighborhood. So, they factor that in as well. But obviously, if a road's really, really bad and it's a safety issue, then regardless of what neighborhood it's in, it's going to get a top priority. And so we'll have that report, I'm figuring sometime in December, but at least a preliminary one beforehand so that we can at least do a priority list for the rescue fund money and for the annual budget. So that's where we stand on that. So,
To what extent do you think you'll involve this committee?
well, I can share whatever information we have on it. I don't know. I mean, really, it's going to be ultimately for this DPW's call on it. They may involve engineering. The new director of public works wants to involve engineering more than it has been in the past in terms of paving. That's a good and a bad thing, if you know what I mean. For
I
me.
do.
Yeah. And so, on that aspect, and he's really trying to have it combined with not only sidewalks, but drainage and things like that. But the drainage money would be separate for the most part. But if we're going to replace all the drainage in a street, you don't want to pave it, a year before you do the work. You want to do it after.
That's
And
right.
so there's a lot of factors involved in it. I mean, just like the regular paving list, we've never shared it because a lot of times it's just an overlay. But I would say we would I'll try to share what I'd call reconstructed streets and anything that may involve associated sidewalks with it or something like that. I mean, if we were to widen a road or conversely narrow the road or in conjunction, maybe narrowing the road so we're able to put a sidewalk in, then obviously I can share that information with the group here. So.
And this group, I'm just guessing, might be interested in helping with prioritization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really talked to that extent yet with John Marsilio, but as you know, I do like to use the group
Right.
In terms of support for grants, and then even sometimes where there's some opposition to sidewalks. Well, why did you pick my neighborhood? Oh, I go all over town. They need it, or theirs is in worse shape than ours. Well, then if I say, well, the Bike and Pedestrian Committee listed your street as in the top 10 or listed it as a priority, that kind of takes a little bit of heat off of me or whoever's making the decisions on why they picked their street, why we picked their street. So that goes a long way. Even for some of the, grants that we apply for, as I said before, I like to use the group, assuming we have their support. We're not going to make it up, obviously. So.
Right. Okay, well, I jumped ahead, so you may have other things.
That was a good question. The update I have right now is Santina, I noticed not on the call. I did send her what I'd call like a semi-final plan for the Jackman Avenue sidewalks. It's not gonna be a very long section. The other one, I think we did like 500 feet. This one's gonna be maybe 250, 300. But there's some sensitive trees in the area, and we have an option of moving the sidewalk close to the road in order to avoid the trees, and that makes it for a tight sidewalk. Or we would move the sidewalk behind the trees, which would be safer, especially if children are involved. But that would mean moving the fence. And so moving or reconstructing or putting in a new fence might take in a little bit more money. So that I have to do a final cost estimate on that to see where we stand. But again, using some of that ARPA money, if we were to be a little bit short, I would ask Park and Recs. I think they listed 4 or 5 playgrounds in that ARPA money or the rescue money. And certainly I would think for the betterment of the park, and I think the desire, especially since there's young children, to fence them in so they don't run out onto the street or something like that. I would get the support if we were a little over. But I haven't done the estimate yet. And being that it's less footage, and I'll just arbitrarily say the other one was, 8 or 9,000. I think we have 9,200 or something like that. If the sidewalk was only 5,000 or 6,000, that gives us a little extra money for curbing, which might be needed, a handicap ramp, and the fence relocation, which would get us to the grant money. So if anyone ever said, well, geez, how come last time we put in a lot more or double the amount of sidewalk? This one here has some other features that we need to do and need to address in order to put in the sidewalk. So, but we have to finish that one by the end of September. And I was hoping to meet with the DPW supervisor today. Definitely is aware of it, but I wanted to show him the plans and discuss it. So, and meet out in the field with him, make sure it's on his radar.
Bill, I would just say I really think the idea of pushing that fence back is great. It's a really tight side right there. So
Mhm.
it makes sense to go that direction.
Yeah,
I agree with
it'll
you.
still be a little tight because they have a planter, and then they also have, unless they're gonna relocate swings, you need to have what they call a fall zone. Not that I think it's gonna be used. I think it's a little conservative, but they wanna make sure that if somebody's on the swing and they happen to swing really high and they
Yep.
fall off, you gotta have a separation, distance. So we'll move it to the back of where that fall zone and where that railroad tie planter thing
Yeah.
is, whatever. And so, that's what we have for that. And we'll have to do a little bit of tree trimming, which the town will do on their own, so.
I
Would you let us
agree
know
with,
when you think that'll be done? Because you have to do it by the end of September. And I know that there's going to be a big event there, September 11th.
I know that too, and I don't know, I gotta find out how, whether we're worth doing it before or after,
Okay.
And now, one of the one part of the sidewalk, which is on the other side of the street, I think will have a minimal impact on that, but obviously being in front of the park would be a big thing. And yeah, whether it was you or somebody, it might have been Dylan O'Connor, gave me a heads up on that event, and he actually invited me to, which was very nice. But unfortunately, I have a family event I have to attend. So, but
if I could comment,
Sure.
I second what Karen said, but I'm not familiar with the area. Because I'm concerned with sidewalks that are really close to the road. If they're used in the winter, the snowplow pile on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we agree, Laura. That's why we're going to move it on the other side. So this would be farther away from, but that's why we'd have to move the fence.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so
I'm
if you
just saying
support
that's
that.
another reason to do it
Right,
around the
Karen does
tree
too, yep.
and move the fence. Because the sidewalk right next to the road gets covered with snow piles.
Right, and that's where maybe it was a little credit to you and actually even credit to our zoning department, and some of the people on the board there are definitely pro pedestrian. And not to say it happens all the time, but their goal is to, when you hug the curb, you have to do a 6-foot sidewalk. so that if the snow gets pushed, say 2 or 3 feet, you still at least have a good amount, as opposed to some of the older sidewalks that hug the curb that are only 4 feet. That gives you 1 foot if you're lucky,
If
to
you're
get by.
lucky.
If you're lucky, right? So that's my update. The other are the grants are kind of moving along slowly. I certainly hope we don't take a step backwards with the COVID. But just everything's going a little bit slower than I had hoped. But we are moving forward with a lot of the other projects. So
I have one other question.
sure.
As I bike around town, if I find some place where the branches are overhanging the road or the sidewalk or whatever, causing bikes to have to go out of the shoulder, I've often put in a service request.
Mm-hmm.
But there are getting to be so many right now that I'm not documenting all of these with the service.
Yeah, it's just a matter of you trying to catch up. It's hard. It really is. I would go by if you happen to see one that's really bad.
Then I put it
would
in.
definitely report it. If it's one where it's like, well, it's okay for me, but somebody 6 foot tall might have a problem, then maybe let them. I hate to say it, but you're right. If you overwhelm them with too many, but again, it's one of those things where sometimes it might be easy to do that work in November. But who knows? Like this weekend, there's a possibility that the storm may have some winds, and if that happens, and then all of a sudden there's lots of trees, then they're going to be months behind again. So
Well,
But
one thing
the
I was
worst
going to
part.
recommend, and I'll continue to do as I do if something's really bad, but
Mhm.
bike routes.
Yeah, I think Scott had a question or comment.
Just let me.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you
The
for
roads-
your great work and also comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Again, there's a lag here. Yes, apropos of Laura's comment, I know of a particular spot in town where the shrubbery is coming out into and beyond the white line on Black Rock Turnpike South. But more importantly, is what is the process for me or anybody to notify the town of, as Laura said, branches or shrubbery or whatever? And is that on our website, on our committee website, Bruce, that you put the tips on?
I haven't
Because if
seen
not,
that.
I would suggest it could be a good place to be a forum or venue or place for somebody to file a request for, I guess, mowing, cutting, whatever it might be.
Well, there's a town website for any sort of request you have, and it's not specific to mowing, cutting. That's one of the categories. There's a drop-down menu that you decide what category. It's been there for a long time. It's a service request, I think is the name of it. And if you go into the town website and just hit search and go on search, put in service request, it'll come up. So it's not specific to biking or pedestrian. It could be any kind of problem. It could be a road that's flooding,
Okay.
playground that needs repair. I mean, and I don't think we want to create a new site, so.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I didn't know when
I
it
think it
thanks,
just
Laura.
makes a reference to it, though, I think is what he was saying. Just
Well,
have a little
suppose-
note saying,
I
use the
don't know
town's
who's
web.
running our-
It's a little redundant, yep, but
I don't know who's running our website.
Who's running our website or
Yes.
their? Yeah, I mean, I have the ability to make changes and then it gets approved and so forth. So it's just, what's the language? Where do we want to put it?
You just want
And-
to put a link to the other part of the town's website for a service request. I mean, I'm going to create a new one because the town's going to work off the existing one. That would be.
Yeah, no, I would say, I don't know if there's just any sort of verbiage we want to put in, if you're traveling around town and you're seeing a tree overhanging, a sidewalk, go here, or something, to alert people, because I don't know if everyone really knows that's where you go, based on Scott's question.
I would be more
please.
general. I would say is if you're biking or walking and you see issues with that the town needs to repair, remember there's this link to the town service request site?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think kind of aggregating what I'm hearing is perhaps it makes sense to put on our committee website referencing, Laura, the service request link, right? So
Correct.
somebody like may just think about going to the pedestrian committee as opposed to what you referenced, which is the right place to go. They might just go right to where I would probably go, is to the pedestrian committee website. See, Bruce, to your comment, you know,
Yep.
that they should go elsewhere and then file that request. I like the idea of having one funnel for everything, but if they come at it from a different angle, different location, then they should all feed to, you know, Bill, as you mentioned, one place. So that makes sense.
Okay.
That's
I
right.
can take that on and figure out how to do that. Suggest some
Okay.
verbiage.
I've also made a note on the next door site that this town has this location. Because it, you know,
Good.
a lot of people just don't know. I mean, maybe it's something Brenda could even put in her blurb every now and then, reminding everybody that the town has this site specific to bike and pedestrian. But I had one more thing I wanted to say, Bill, and I don't know if there's a way you can do this, but prioritizing the bike routes for town people to check out kind of on a regular basis to make sure there's nothing overhanging or not excess debris in the road.
When you're prioritizing, I don't understand your question.
When they're driving down bike routes, that's not many roads in town. If they're pay attention to whether there's debris in the road or overhanging branches, and not wait for somebody to put in a work request on a bike route.
Are you referring to like if the town people, the town employees see it, or? All right, yeah. Just to let you know on that one, I was a little bit shocked. I did have someone from my office check the grates because when I drove home one time, I noticed a little depression in a catch basin grate, and I'm like, I know we replaced some on the library to library because we bought 12 of them, to do that. But it was a little bit shocking to find that there were still a lot on Mill Plain Road and some of the other roads. And so I gave DPW preliminary list of like 74 of them. So
Wow.
I'm hoping to use, as I said, we have this safety improvements or roadway safety improvements. And again, that was for if there's a big intersection that has to be realigned, maybe those RRFBs that we were, talking about if we didn't get the grant or something like that. And ironically, what I was saying is that I said to myself, you know what, this is a safety issue. And again, trying to be in the complete streets mode, I put in that request. So hopefully, and then I also think that that's a good November, December job. It doesn't involve, it shouldn't involve any asphalt or anything like that. You just lift up the old cover and put on a new one, a new grate. So that could be a good, winter 40-degree, type of thing, or November type of job. And so I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do. But this way they have months to, purchase them. Probably the biggest thing is going to be where they store them when they get them. But that number kind of shocked me. I really thought I was expecting like the number in the 20s maybe, but there are still a lot. And I mean, the thing with Mill Plain Road, at least that's kind of wider and you can kind of go around. But on some of the other roads and even for Mill Plain Road, you just want to have that ability of if you can't or you don't see the catch basin in time, that you have to go over it, that it's bicycle friendly, So.
Yep. Thank you. Karen?
Oh, you unmute.
Sorry, I forgot. I was just going to say that just so that Bruce and Scott understand that these new grates are the ones that are narrower so that a bike tire cannot get caught in them, correct?
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell the new ones, they're a little bit more rounded. The bars are rounded rather than rectangular. And then I just go by the openings, like the old style might have 35, 2x2 openings. And yet the newer ones, I think, have 70. So they're smaller. So smaller openings and a lot more. So just driving by, you can kind of spot the newer ones. Sometimes, and the real newer ones are galvanized, but they do come in like the orangey color or the silver color. But you can spot them pretty quick if you have, certainly if you walk by or if you're bike riding not too fast, you can spot them. So.
And well, I'll just say one last thing about the service request. My experience has been that when I've put in a service request, it's usually handled within a couple days. So. it
Wow.
works.
That's
Yeah,
impressive.
it seems to be feast or famine. A lot of times, if somebody's on it, or there's 4 or 5 people that look at these things and they jump on it, especially if it's a safety issue, they've been told to jump on it. And then if it goes like more than a couple of weeks, then not that I want to encourage it, but if it's really something you feel strongly about, put it in again or say, hey, any status or something like that, and it kind of kicks it in again. Because I have to admit, sometimes they get a little stale, if it's near the end, and they haven't been addressed. Trying to think of anything else. Oh, one other thing, because I'm not sure if a couple of you were. I mean, I looked at that Pequot Avenue. I'm still trying to figure out. It really, we have a right of way issue on that, and it's going to be really hard to put in a sidewalk there. And then, just looking at possibilities for sidewalks or signs or the RRFBs. The state gave me good and bad news. They said that on the grant, they were going to issue, we put in a request for 5 and they're going to issue 3 of them. So I'm like, oh, wow, that'll save the town, like $33,000 or something. That's great news. And then I found out the top 2, though, priority, they turned down. And those are the ones on Old Post Road. And they thought it was because of the Town Hall Green has a road sign and it was an intersection. So about 6 weeks ago, I put in an email saying I disagree with this, an official town request to reinstitute or take another look at it. And I have not heard back. And then ironically, today, I just sent another email out again. My fear, though, is the program where, again, it goes on, it takes a long time. Then all of a sudden, boom, things get approved. And then they don't give you any time. There was no notification or anything. And I'm afraid that, I got to push really hard to get these other 2 in. So we'll see what happens. But if, just in case anybody approaches you on those, we should be getting 3, but I was hoping for 5. So.
Well, thank you, Bill. Does
Okay.
anybody else have anything for Bill?
No, but I just wanted to let you know, I got an email from Santina. She couldn't get in. So I sent her the correct link, but
Oh, so she is going to join. Okay.
well, I don't know if she will at this point, but I did just send her the correct one.
Oh, all right. Well, for the sake of if Santina does pop on, I'll hang around for another 5 minutes or so, but then I'll probably leave. I'll be honest, I'm overburdened with work, and if I can get out, I appreciate it. So, no, I'd love to spend more time. And hopefully, did you guys have the event yesterday or no?
Yeah.
It was
I
lovely.
thought about you. I was involved with Scouts, and we had an Eagle Scout that was going back to college on Friday. He originally was scheduled for Thursday, but for some reason he couldn't make it, so it got rescheduled yesterday. So, yeah. So I missed it, but I hope everybody had a good time.
Yeah, and thank you, Chairman, for setting it up at the Boca.
Oh, yeah.
That worked out very well there.
Yeah, that was perfect.
No, I'll hang out for 5 more minutes and see if Santina has any questions for me. And if not, then I'll just quietly leave the meeting. And thanks everyone. And as
Great.
always, if you have any questions, you feel free to email me or give me a call.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Bill.
right.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Bill.
Yep.
Okay, next item is on the financials. There's been no change. And then Keith put an update on outreach to other communities or town offices. Does Anyone have anything to report? Oh, here comes Santina. She's on mute.
know what happened.
There.
Change the call-in information the last minute.
Jennifer
I
did.
was just like stuck and I was like, I don't know if. Okay. Well, thank you, Karen.
Santina, same thing happened to me. I was about a half hour late for the meeting, so.
Okay.
So I'm running the meeting tonight because Keith at the last minute couldn't make it. I mean, everything's last minute today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear anything you have to share.
Yeah. So I have two things. One, Bill, just to kind of go over the grant, we have
Mhm.
$10,299 left to spend. That has to be spent by September 30th, and we can use all of those funds. And then the other thing is I actually submitted a budget revision. So I don't know if you guys remember this block grant. We used two different programs for. The other program, because of COVID, it's just not working out. So I have $1,461 to spend on advertising and printing. And so, Karen, we did do that that Facebook ad that's still running. So we can, run another Facebook ad. And then if there's any like pamphlets or if we want to create like a safety pamphlet and get it printed, I mean, we have $1,400 to spend. So that's, I don't know.
Santina, this is Scott. If I heard you, hello, by the way. Thanks for
Hi.
joining.
Yeah.
And sorry I missed you last night. So if I recall, you say you've got 10,000 or 8,000 to spend before the end of September?
Yeah. So $10,299 for the sidewalk on Lincoln Park to spend
Okay.
by September 30th.
Got
And
it.
then $1,461 to spend by September 30th on advertising and printing. And
Okay, so
of
if
that,
for some reason we are unable to spend that money on the sidewalk, or I should say, first of all, are things in motion to spend that money on the sidewalk?
yeah, so we had allocated $10,299 for the sidewalk. This advertising and printing, the $1,400 was allocated towards another project that just because of COVID.
You've gone mute.
Oh, somehow you must
gone
have hit a
mute.
button. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm mute.
We lost you.
You're muted.
I didn't even touch anything. What is happening?
We hear you now.
Okay.
Uh,
So I was saying that $1,461 was allocated towards another project for advertising and printing for that project.
Okay.
Since that
Okay,
project
thank
is
you.
no longer, effective, we're gonna just spend it on this.
Okay. And the 10,299, if it's not all used, and I think, Bill, you talked about 9,200, which I'm assuming we're talking the same number here.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
It might have gone up or it always was that way. Maybe I'm thinking of last year's number. But just to let Santina know, as I was explaining to the commission here or committee, that we're going to do a little less in sidewalk than we did last year. But one of the big features was that we had the option of because the tree ward wants to save the 2 trees in front of Lincoln Park.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could put the sidewalk in front of those trees, closer to the road, even narrow the road down with a new curb, or move the fence back. And so moving the fence back seemed to be the better idea, the safer idea, keep the children further away from the road or any of the pedestrians anyway. And so we only moved the fence back probably 2 or 3 feet, but
Okay.
and most likely that would be a replacement fence. What I have to now do for my next step is to make sure that this project is either, close to the budget. If we're over the budget, then maybe ask Anthony to chip in a little, or maybe use some of that ARPA fund. Because if I recall, I think Lincoln Park was listed as one of the playgrounds. And even though we don't have formal approval yet, try to do that. and what I was gonna say, if we're short and if we have, I mean, if we go over and if we're short on the funds, then again, we can maybe grab a couple of bike route signs or some catch basin grates.
Mhm.
To let you know on that, I put in a request for, I think it was the 84 or something like that, catch basin grates, to be bicycle friendly with the DPW on our bike routes. So, I think that would be a good feature. We have the money for that. I'm gonna use that out of our roadway safety fund. So,
Okay.
I just
So
wanna let
what-
you know, so we can always buy some more of those as well. So if we're a little short, I'll let you know and we can do that. Obviously, if we're gonna do that, it'd be nice to have an invoice, say September 7th rather than 29th or
Yeah.
30th, you know? So,
And the other catch is I'm going on maternity leave. So
okay.
all yet again at the same exact around the same time.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yes, thank you. So I will be here in September and most of October. But we're always kind of that last week of September, first week in October, we're always kind of rushing around to make sure that everything is, and I'm pretty sure Kiva will kill me again. So
Yeah, well, we'll try, as I said, I'm gonna try to get them on board. What has me a little bit disturbed is that, the Director of Public Works wants them to also do another, sidewalk. So I'm gonna see if I can get them to do this one first before the other.
Okay.
It's a timing issue. If not, the other one shouldn't be too bad. It's an existing sidewalk. They just have to rip out and put in new. So, and that would also be concrete. But if this one can go first, I'll feel a little bit more relieved. So
me too.
keep you posted on that.
Okay, sounds good. And then, I'm going to be writing the grant for next year. It's going to be about $15,000. Again, that's because the other project is just, no longer going to happen. So we will have $1,500. I did write in that we wanted to look at that bird gate
Yep. Mhm.
sidewalk. So I did write that already in. And then if anyone has any other ideas, unless we think it's going to cost like $15,000 and we can allocate all of the money for that, that's fine. But that's kind of what we're looking at for next year. No decisions need to be made right now because I can always write revisions. Yes, Scott.
So being new to the committee, and I apologize for probably asking a question that we've had, discussion about before, but if one has an idea about how monies would like to be spent, whether it be sidewalk or other, what is our process, either Santina or for that matter, anybody else in the committee, to propose an idea and then to fund it?
So the funds come from the health department and we kind of look to the committee for ideas and suggestions. So if there are any ideas, this is definitely the place to bring them up. From the health department perspective, the last few rounds of this grant, so this is federal money that we get every single year, and they come in like 3-year blocks. And so for the last cycle, that's what we used for a lot of the bike routes. And so as a health department, we wanted to focus more on pedestrian safety. And so that's where I came to the committee and I said, this is what we're doing. What do you guys think? Everyone, I think, was in agreement that we focused a lot on bikes. And so, yeah, let's fix up some sidewalks and do what we can there. And then the suggestions for the areas come from this group. And they support whatever decision that the health department makes. Am I getting that right, that process, everyone else?
Yeah. If I recall, again, there might have been like 3 suggestions, Birdcroft or on Uncle Road. I think someone suggested Wilson Street or Churchill Road or Fairfield Woods Road is another. And then the area of Lincoln Park and Jackman Avenue. And we thought that, having small section of sidewalk constructed, we were like, well, we kind of did a little bit near Wilson last time. Birdcroft, we have to just double check because there might be a little area of retaining wall, or if they utilize that full pull off, because there's a bus pull off, a school bus pull off there. So we went with Lincoln Park, figuring that they didn't even have a sidewalk or anything, and obviously that's a major pedestrian generator. So the committee basically took a vote on all three of them, and it was pretty much after a discussion unanimous or fairly unanimous on picking the one that we chose this year.
And then I'm in contact with the state, and the state really liked the idea of connecting to the park.
So here's thank you.
Bill.
Here's just a thought. And I don't think we've got this on our website. Bruce, you would probably know. Do we have a place where anyone can contribute ideas as to how they'd like to see monies spent by the town in areas that are relevant for the bike and pedestrian committee? Basically, a comment box. Okay.
I don't think
Because
I
it seems
saw
to me
one.
like we're kind of creating some of this stuff. I'll just say respectfully, kind of in a bubble, as opposed to kind of going out to the greater community and inquiring, what they want to see done. So, and it's great what we're doing, but I'm just thinking if there's a way for us to, promote via way of our first selectman's e-newsletter. I'm just thinking out loud here, to contact the biking committee website with any ways in which they might want to see improvements in our town, sidewalk or whatever, then it would give us some ideas to kind of percolate. And then you could
No,
also
there is
argue that
not
if you get more requests for whatever, then we would say, oh, there seems to be some, activities, some prioritization in these areas, and we might want to pay attention to that and consider it, and obviously have a discussion and vote accordingly. So maybe we might want to think about doing. Karen, go ahead. Yeah.
We do get emails, and many of the things over the past few years, we do get requests for certain sidewalks, things that we have looked at the past. Sometimes they're, they just aren't something that can really be considered. And Bill can speak to this a little bit more, but we're also looking to make sure that it isn't just one person suggesting it, but if it's in a particular area, that entire street supports it. And so, getting more support, but I'll let Bill speak on it because he has a better handle on that.
Yeah, and we don't. If I recall, we don't have anything on the website for that. But
Nope.
as Karen said, we get emails. The town engineering department always gets emails on sidewalk requests. The complaint or the citizen response form, that what we call Q Alert, that Laura had mentioned before, actually has a thing for sidewalk requests on it or something like that. So there are many different ways you can have input. And on occasion, I want to say about 3 years ago, we did have kind of like a mini poll of town priorities from that when we were doing the complete streets. I think people had chimed in on that. And then there was the MetroCog had done a master bike and pedestrian plan, and it was based on public comment, and that was about 5 years. And even though, things can change, we're still kind of basing a lot of our requests or information on those studies and those the input from people from 3 to 5 years ago, because government moves very slowly. So,
And people have come to the meetings and advocated
That's
for
right, that
sidewalks
too.
in their area and stuff. And that's what actually happened with Wilson Street. So it kind of coincided with the grant, and the health department's thought to start working a little bit on pedestrian safety. And then the other part of it is these are really small grants. So some of the projects that do come forward or are suggestions, we just don't have the funds for it. You're talking $10,000 to $15,000.
Can I ask a question to clarify? Because Scott asked a good question of the process. That was the process to use health department funds for sidewalks. There's another process if DPW funds it, correct? DPW has a sidewalk budget.
It's kind of tied in with the paving, and
Right.
they try to set aside a certain amount of money for that. Sometimes it's just for repair, sometimes it's for new sidewalks. It's a little informal, and it's based on a lot of different criteria. But yeah, you can always request that. And then one of the other things, when we had the public meeting for Black Rock Turnpike study. The public input allowed us to kind of extend some of the sidewalk networks off the side streets. You know, the Stilson Road or Fairfield Woods Road. What's the other one? Brookside, or you know, so we're going like 150, 200 feet into the neighborhoods with a lot of the sidewalks. Maybe not every street, but some, you know, for that. And so there's many forums to do it. If you want to centralize one or you want to have it on the website, or as like Santina said, they can come to a meeting. There's all different ways that they can do it, and usually we take a look at I want to say we look at this twice. We take a good look at it in the fall as a preliminary when you go to apply for the grant, and then I think when you finalize the grant in the spring, so to speak, we do one more look and just make sure something hasn't changed or some priority, or you know, get initial feedback of what the state's looking for. So credit definitely Santina, because the last 4 or 5 years, whatever efforts that this group has put in, we've been able to see results of that rather than be just dependent on DPW. I mean, some of the ones that have come in has been paid for through DPW, but it's nice to know you have $9 or $6 or $10,000 waiting, that at least you know something you get implemented regardless of you know, DPW schedule or funding.
That's great. That's great. Because Scott's new and I just wanted him.
Oh, yeah.
It's good refresher for everybody. Yep.
Yep.
And
But I
especially with the
walked away
bike
with
route,
what's,
I was just going to say, especially with the bike routes, we try to align it with the paving, so that, you know, we get the best bang for our buck, so to say.
Yep.
and I guess, Scott, you may or may not have mentioned this, but when you were saying that, I was thinking, how do we want to go about presenting ideas within the committee that we think the committee should try to support and push forward, and then we figure out how to fund it. But it's, you know, what does the committee consider priorities? And is that what you were talking about? Instead of talking about funding first.
Yes, to a degree, Bruce. Bruce, thank you, and thank you everybody for their comments here. It's just maybe we might just want to have a site, a place on our site. You know, as I said, kind of a comics box, okay, old school, and anybody can chime in with anything, you know, sidewalk related or other. You know, I've got some ideas about bike safety that I want to kind of percolate, not on this particular meeting, but I think there's a lot we can do for not a lot of money to help with safety for cyclists. And I would like to, you know, have a place for me to tell my friends who are bicyclists to go and contribute their thoughts. And then that would help us, to your point, Bruce, kind of percolate some ideas in addition to the things you've already discussed. Yep.
Keep in mind that our chairman is not here today and might want to set up maybe a committee or something to work on projects like this. Our new chairman, who starts next week, you know, Santina, you know, Keith is no longer going to be.
Yeah, I knew that. So who's taking over for Keith?
We voted on Sarah Roy.
Oh, that's great.
So I just keep that in mind. She may organize the committee in some way to tackle. There might be a subcommittee that looks at certain safety improvements. You know, that's up to her, and she's not here, so maybe it's probably better to defer this conversation till next month. So.
Yeah, but at least gets it started. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So then the only other thing I wanted to touch base on was, for those of you who are unaware, a few years ago, we funded the bike share program out of Zane's. And then when Zane's closed down, we looked at other venues and it just wasn't working. And so now we have 10 bikes that are just sitting in a health department storage unit and going back and forth with the state on like what to do with these bikes. Can we give them out to like organizations? Like, what can we do? The state finally said, okay, you know, I guess it's better than just sitting in our storage unit, taking up space. So the things I talked about with Sands in the state, two big things are one, either doing, or three actually, either doing like an employee bike share. So like the town would keep them for employees to use instead of driving to my office at 100 Mona Terrace and back to town hall. Someone could use a bike. The second, which we're kind of interested in, is going to the hotels in the area and asking if they want, I see Laura put in a thumbs up, seeing if they want the bikes. There are 10 bikes. Sands and I were even talking, the $15,000 that we're getting in the next round. Maybe we can spend some of that money and have them like refixed up a little bit and, give them off to the bike or give them off to the hotels, and, then it's their responsibility. Or then the third was reaching out to Fairfield U and or Sacred Heart and seeing if they would want to take them. So I just wanted to see if anyone had any other thoughts, any other ideas, any strong objections before I start reaching out to different.
I love the idea of the town using them too. The only thing people have to have helmets, because we aren't doing a good job if they don't have a helmet.
Yeah, and we do have 20 helmets. The
Okay.
thing with the town is, I'm not sure how risk management's going to feel about that.
Right.
We haven't
I was just
started.
gonna say that.
Yeah,
They were not too happy in the first place about
they were not.
risk on the bikes.
Yeah, so, Sands and I really like the idea of the hotels, and it's kind of like a way of like giving back, I guess. So just
The
wanted
Circle
to.
Hotel. It's
Yeah.
right by the beach.
Well, that one in particular, and they had one of the bikes there for a while, and you can get to the beach easily from there.
Well, and they are also the Hi-Ho owners, the same group. So
Same group. So yeah, I like that the best. The other thing about the universities, I ended up donating a bike this spring to Fairfield University. They asked for, anybody want to donate or loan, because they had a group from somewhere in Africa, I think, that was in sight and had no transportation to get around town. And I donated a bike. So Fairfield, you could from time to time want something like that too, depending on how many hotel takers you get.
Okay. So we'll start with the hotels and then see what the universities say. We just want to get them back out there because they're, we spent all this money on these gorgeous bikes and they're just kind of hanging out, taking space. So
Yeah.
Be great to have them in use again. That's wonderful.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, and I think that's all for me. Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Thank you, Santina.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tina.
Right, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. So, anything on outreach to the committee?
The only thing I'll mention is I did sit in on my last Sustainable Fairfield Task Force meeting on August 11th, and it was a great meeting. It was the last meeting before they do their submission for their Sustainable Connecticut recertification, so they're really busy doing that. So everybody keep their fingers crossed. They have a lot of great initiatives, and hopefully we'll get I think it's a silver certification again, so they're optimistic. But the group does a lot of great work, so I hope somebody in the committee will take over the liaison relationship with them.
Anybody else have a report? Okay. The World Remembrance Day, wasn't that Sarah's?
Yes,
Yep.
that's Sarah's initiative, so
Yeah.
she'll probably update you. Yeah.
Well, I know I spoke to her last night. She's reaching out to the risk management because there's an issue about insurance for the event. But they don't seem to be too concerned about that. But that's the one thing she's going to take care of.
Okay. Safety tips messaging. I don't know. Keith put it on here. I don't know what in particular he wanted to talk about. I mean, we got the first select
They're on the
woman
website.
website.
Yep.
I haven't noticed any improvement in town since she did.
And the health department did purchase a social media ad on those safety tips as well.
Good. I find the biggest.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bruce, for putting those on. And I know just about everybody, I think, had comments. So I feel as if the tips were pretty well vetted, as opposed to just, kind of whimsically me kind of conjuring up them and throwing them on the website. So we all contributed, which is great. I'm wondering what other venues we might want to consider that can be used to inform our townspeople. I don't know, besides the newsletter, what we do. There's no more, I think, paper copy of the Fairfield News Citizen, right? I don't know. Are there any other websites we can consider putting them on besides ours and the First Selectman's email?
I mean, there's the patch, but you got to make it exciting for them to want to do something on that.
The next door sometimes posts notices of things, like the police department will put notices on next door. Maybe you could get the police department to post a few safety tips every now and then. I wouldn't necessarily post the whole list because a lot of people won't read past the first two or three.
Yep.
But I mean, the two that to me are the biggest reminders that cyclists ride with traffic and pedestrians against traffic. Those are the two biggest problems. People know they're supposed to wear helmets, they just don't want to.
On that, Laura, I wonder, Santina, do you know who handles it for the police department, their social media site? And is it something that you could sort of say, hey, will you share it? Will you share it as a story or?
Absolutely. Yep. I do know who who handles all of that. And we try to tag each other so then we know to like reshare it, but I will send them a text message whenever we post something. So
Okay.
if there's, something you guys want to put out, let's definitely put it through the health department's social media. We have funds that I could boost the post to get a little bit more. That's what I was just trying to look at to see how our stats are on Facebook on that previous post. And then I'll let PD know. Fire is another one of our partners. And then of course the First Select Woman's Office.
So Scott, maybe if we took some of the things that we put on the website and sort of tried to make, something that we could use on social media, and we maybe once a week for a month, we make a post that then shared. I don't know, just a thought, but.
That whatever, anything's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I just think one of the biggest concerns, amongst the people I know is concern about, if you're a biker, about the cars. Cars are too close and cars are too fast. So that to me is more education to motorists than it is education to cyclists. And I think that was.
I completely agree with you, but my experience is the motorists, most of them don't care. People speed in this town because they want to get someplace fast. And unless the police stop them, unless there's more enforcement, they're not going to do it because of bicycles. As a matter of fact, many people, I see comments on the Nextdoor site that they hate these bicyclists. So, it's not like you're going to win by telling the general public that they should slow down, because they don't want to.
Yeah, but Laura, we also can't have that. We can't have that attitude. I know, not against you. I agree with you, but my point is, if we want to continue to push education, the more people that are out biking, we've seen over the past 8 years how many people are biking in Fairfield now. We just have to keep pushing the education in every single way we can and hope that we hit a small percentage of people that start to really are aware of it.
I don't disagree, but I want you all to understand how hard it is to get through to people who drive fast.
I totally understand that.
I agree. And I think it's just a constant, it is constant education, Karen, to your point, and I get it. I mean, I'm sure we've all gone above the speed limit at some point in time ourselves, right?
And the
but
biking
it's just being cognizant that the road is shared. And I think there's a lot of attitude that motorists feel that they take priority.
Yeah.
And they do, physically, they do occupy the bulk of the lane, right? And more often than not, there's not a cyclist, pedestrian, or runner But I just think that, we might want to just kind of think about that as a committee. What can we do to create more safety for the people who are not in automobiles, to the automobile, the motorists. So yeah, it's something we can think about. But one thing I think that has a lot of merit are those little signs that say keep 3 feet of distance. I need to think about that some more, but I see those and I think they're wonderful. Now, do people pay attention to them? All you need is one person who starts to that didn't before, and you've got one person in the right direction. So yeah, I hear everybody. It's something to think about.
I want to move ahead. We're getting near the end of the time. We have to get really creative on this because the message that we've got share the road signs all over town. We've got the 3 feet signs all over town. We have speed limit signs all over town. And it's really got to get something entirely different. The only other thing idea I have on any of this is police do have these electronic signs that they put up every now and then.
Yeah.
That they could put up in certain places with, it's got to be a short message, but short messages are the best ones because people won't read through long messages. So, maybe we can do something like that with safety messages.
Well, maybe part of the funding is that we buy those little small ones that just tell people's speed, because I think they're pretty effective. If you put them right below the speed limit sign and it just sits there and it tells the person you're now going 37 and this is a 25 mile an hour. So it does have an effect. I don't know how much they cost, but what if we funded them on the bike routes?
When you say
and just put them there.
who do you mean by?
I don't know how much they cost, but they're little boxes. They're not that big. And what if we, did a project to try to get them on the established bike routes at least?
Well, again, let's.
It's a way to continue to make them safer.
Sarah's here, because I think that's, again, a committee project to figure out how to do that. Because we can't make a decision in this group without having it signed, sealed, and delivered. That we've gone through the police and DPW and all to understand what's allowed.
But I think this go back to, in some way, what Scott, you were talking about, is that at some point in time, what does the committee feel like are priorities that we want to work on? And how do we go about deciding as a committee that's, and I know we need to have the whole committee with us when we do it, but this is important to us and this is what we're going to do this year. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to have, I think, some, what I call, in business, you guys have all heard, BHAGs, right? Big, hairy, audacious goals. Okay. We should have some, BHAGs we kind of, march towards. And we should also have some overall annual or biannual goals to think about and just start trying to kind of chip away at them. But just a thought to kind of move on, Laura, to your point, we're getting late towards our time here, is maybe we could, and maybe I could, think about doing some research as to what other towns in our country, or state for that matter, have done to be successful to create more safety within their community when it comes to the roads. I'm sure, we can't just operate in a vacuum to have, 10 people's good ideas percolate and decide what's best, as opposed to thinking about what's already been done. I'd rather benchmark off of other community success and just vet that and bring it forward to the committee. So I'll think about that, Bruce, if you want to put that on the agenda.
And again, put it on the agenda. Sarah will be putting an agenda together for the next meeting because she's now our chairman. And Keith has suggested to her that she set up subcommittees. And so if this is something we want to work on, that's how you do it. To have this kind of a loose conversation in the open meeting, it just never gets anywhere. You have to really have a formed.
Yep, I get it. Thank you.
So Laura, just before we change the topic, I got some stats. So on that share the road post that we put up with some safety tips on Facebook, we've reached 2,556 people, had 40 likes, 8 comments, and it was shared 12 times. And on Instagram, we've reached 270 people. It was shared 8 times, and we have 19 likes.
I don't know how to rate that.
That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
What are the comments? do we ever see those comments? How do we?
You do.
Some-
You can go onto our Facebook and you can see that there was some back and forth, including, yeah, there was some back and forth.
What's the link? What's the link, Santina?
It's just on Facebook, Fairfield Health Department. And if you scroll
Thank you.
down a bit, we posted it back in like July.
Yeah, cool.
So we can do something
Nicely
like,
done.
you know, if you guys are okay with it, I'm fine with doing like a safety tip Saturday or a safety tip Sunday and putting up a different tip each week and, you know, spending $20, $30 just to boost it for the week if you guys are okay with that.
I think it's a great idea. It's the
Sure,
education
yeah.
we've been talking about.
Definitely.
Great idea. I'm looking at it now.
Should we make a motion to do that?
Yeah.
Make it official?
I mean, to make a decision to spend the health department money that way, I somehow feel that requires a motion if somebody wants to make
Yeah,
it.
I'll make a motion that we do, I don't know, how many weeks are you thinking, Santina?
Well, we can only do it until September 30th because that's all we have money
Okay.
for.
So why don't we say if we do it for 4 weeks, 4 Saturdays of safety posts and, go forward. So I'll make that motion.
At a cost of,
Well, we have $1,400 to spend, so
what's that?
I said we have $1,400 to spend. Not saying we have to spend all $1,400 during
No,
this
but
one
how much
time,
of
but
this would we spend, which should be in the motion?
$20 to $30?
Well, is it $20 to $30 per week?
Yeah.
So let's say we'll spend $100. We'll do 5 weeks, right? Make it even number.
That's good. Anybody?
Get that, Bruce?
Okay.
Sort of.
Approve? Yep, I got it. It's going to be recorded.
It was seconded?
Second it.
Scott seconded it, okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Actually, it was Mike.
Okay.
Or Mike. Okay.
And Karen, I'll work with you again on creating some content.
Yes, and I'll talk to Scott and we'll come up with some of the stuff that we've put on the thing and see what we can come up with. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So we'll aim for the first one this weekend. I'm sure we can come up with something short and sweet for the weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So, anything else for the meeting before we adjourn?
I guess the other, I saw a random article and I cannot find it anymore, that in Connecticut in October, some law is going to change that allows pedestrians to actually direct traffic in sidewalks by raising their hands. They can stop cars. Did anyone else see this?
That's scary.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be
Yes.
good.
Mike,
Is that from the Onion, Bruce?
I don't know. Maybe it was. I didn't think it was, but yeah.
I've seen it a couple places. I think you have to be in a crosswalk because prior laws, the cars didn't have to stop if you were on a curb going to a crosswalk, and only when you were in the crosswalk did they have to stop. But I think the idea is that you can signal your intent to cross when you're standing on the curb. You can like alert them, and that gives you a little bit more power. It's not exactly directing traffic, but it's yourself more visible.
So I only raise it in that, is that something that we want to jump on or promote or steer clear of, because it does sound a little dangerous.
I would talk to Kristen McCarthy Vahey on that, because that's one of the bills that she pushed through.
Okay. I can try to reach out to her on that. I don't know. It caught my eye.
Else. So our next meeting is September, what is it? It's
Meeting
the
schedule.
third- It's
It
the third
is
Thursday?
September 16th.
Right.
16th. It's Yom Kippur, FYI.
Okay. I don't know that.
Anybody, if that's a deterrent for anybody, hello.
Yeah.
If
I'm
anybody in this,
fine. I'm fine with
accepts
I'm fine with that night.
then I would leave it. I'll tell you why. If we move it, it becomes a special meeting and we're restricted of what we can do or talk about. It has to be something on the agenda. It makes it
Yep.
a little, and it's harder to find
si-
it in the town calendar.
16th, okay.
All right.
Can I just reiterate one of the items in the minutes, Bruce, that you put out that
Yep.
Keith referenced is the email correspondence that we have amongst the committee? Could we just try to, in the subject heading, put bike head? Because we all get
Yeah,
too many
okay.
emails, and it's very easy just to scroll through and, like I do, delete, 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 delete. But if I see that bike ped, I'll pay attention to it. If we can kind of get into a habit of doing that, I would find that helpful. Maybe others would as well.
Okay. I'll underscore it and
Yep.
maybe we can get it on the agenda again, just to reinforce.
Just to put it as part of the minutes. Takes time for people to change habits.
All right. Are we ready
All
to?
right. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. This is Mike.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Unless there's an objection, we're adjourned.
Yep.
Thank you.
And thank you, Linda.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Linda.
I'll
It's
miss
been
All right,
such a
thank you.
pleasure.
I'm sure I'll stay in touch.